Okay, peeps, welcome back. So today we're going to be going over the Grayscale Fibonacci Trust or Grayscale Trust Fibonacci retracements and talk about what the potential upside is for that. So with that being said, let's get it. All right. So a couple of things I want to say here. First thing is I think that if you guys are not following us on X, go ahead and follow us on X. You can get the link to that on the channel page, I believe. But basically, we made a post there recently talking about the inverse correlation between Bitcoin dominance and ETH dominance. Okay. It's my opinion that Bitcoin dominance will probably go a little bit higher into the end of the year, basically before getting a sell off on the dominance, which will then lead to a massive alt season sometime in between there and the alt season. In my opinion, LTCN and BCHG will moonshot to whatever their all time highs are going to be, and the altcoin related projects that are not BCHG and LTCN will probably moonshot the hardest during the actual alt season. So when ETH dominance goes up and Bitcoin dominance goes down, when that uninversion takes place, so to speak, that's when I expect the rest of these trusts to moonshot. So let's get into the content. All right, so we're going to go over these one by one. So first, Fibonacci retracement, assuming that this level right here on this trend line is the bottom. We'll go over what these levels are going to be. So you have the 1.618 at 82, 2.618, 130, 3.618, 176, and 4.236 is going to be all the way up here at 200. Just to give you guys an idea of how much that would be, we'll just do some simple math here. 200 divided by 1150. Let's say times, I don't know, maybe you put a couple $1,000s in, you'd be looking at roughly about 34,700 here. So pretty good. However, I do want to show you guys the bigger picture here. Okay, this is just a local level retracement. This is kind of like a smaller, more immediate move. And I'm going to do this with all of these trusts just so you guys can see what the potential is here. So I got to measure this from the very top, basically 510. I believe LTCN bottomed out like $2 a share, if I'm not mistaken, somewhere there. So this is kind of the big picture, okay? Now, I don't necessarily know that it goes up to these highs, but I mean, this thing did go basically from what, $20 up to $510 or whatever it was. Let me see if I can actually figure out where that bottom is. And again, this price action was already in play after the previous Bitcoin halving, so we didn't actually get to see a bear market bottom in 2020 for LTCN because it didn't yet exist before the halving. So the price probably actually would have been quite a bit lower. I would wager probably the price might have been somewhere maybe between like $5 to $10, something like that. But we'll just go with the previous price here. So $20, all the way up to 510. That's basically like a 25x. So that's still a great return in my opinion. So if we're looking at big picture here, you're talking 830, 1300, and then you have roughly about 1850 and I want to say 2200, but that's not quite right. So 2150 here, all the way at the top. So if I were just to give you guys the numbers here, 2150, and I mean, with the premiums that comes on this thing, it is possible that it could do something like this. I mean, again, the market cap for these Grayscale trusts are quite small. Even LTC and a BCHG, I think, are like only 100 million or something like that, or a billion, or no, I think it's only 100 million. I'd have to go back and look, but it's pretty small. It's really, really small. I mean, 100 million market cap in the native space would be like maybe top 300-400. So based on market cap alone, I would say this is definitely possible. Now, let's just assume that, because this number is so crazy, and again, it is possible, but I'm not sure it's going to do that much. But never know, it could. I mean, anything's possible. I'm not willing to count that out. I mean, I myself during the previous cycle saw Dogecoin go from 1/10 of a penny to 75 cents. That's a 750x. So that's more than 4 times what the maximum on this would be. So it's definitely possible. But anyways, $2,000 investment, you'd be looking at 187,000 roughly. All right, so let's go ahead and go over to BCHG. You can kind of see the previous all-time high all the way up there at the $60 range. Again, the current price is quite small compared to where the previous all-time high was. And like I said, once we get past September, kind of closer towards the end of the year, that's when Bitcoin should theoretically top out. The election should be more obvious what's going to happen with the elections. The Fed should be cutting rates by then, which means monetary easing is coming. Dollar index falls, Bitcoin goes up. That's usually how that goes. So that's kind of the timeline I'm looking at, like 3 or 4 months, something like that from now. So 36, 53, 72, and you have roughly about, let's say 84 respectively. I think 84 is probably undershooting the possibilities here, even though it is above the previous all-time high. But that's still 12.5x. I mean, it's not 100x, but hey, I mean, making this off of just 2K in crypto in a very short period of time is actually a pretty good deal, if you ask me. I mean, in the previous cycle, we bought Bitcoin at I think somewhere between 8 to about 15,000. We sold it roughly about 50 to 60,000. So we thought that was pretty good at the time. But I mean, compared to some of these altcoins, the gains on Bitcoin really is nothing. Okay, so $100 here, 158, 220, and then roughly about $250. We'll just call it 250 or 255. So you'd be looking at roughly about a 38x. I mean, a 38x is great. I'm trying to think of which token we got a 38x on in the last cycle. We did get a 38x on Doge. I don't know if there was another one. There might have been another one. I can't remember. But I mean, there's a lot of tokens out there that probably, a lot of tokens in the native space that probably will do a 38x. I mean, Mara, for example, from its lows, I could actually show you guys that here in a minute. We'll see that here in a minute. But from its lows to the previous swing high was a pretty massive gain. So $76,000 here on BCHG. I do actually want to look that up just to show you guys that getting a 20, 30, 40x is not exclusive just to the Grayscale trusts or even the native space. It can happen with basically anything. I don't know why I just pulled up the Fibonacci's. Sorry about that. Okay, so we're going to look at the bear market lows here on Mara. You can see basically that was, sheesh, that was really low. Okay, yeah, let's not go with that. Let's go with the most recent cycle here. So, yeah, basically about $3 on Mara. Okay. And then it went all the way up to $33 at the swing high, which again, I do not think that is going to be the all-time high for this cycle for Mara, but you can see that was an 11x, right? So previous bear market lows back here, Mara was basically, I don't know exactly where, but it's pretty far down there. So 35 cents per share, which is kind of insane. And then you guys can see it topped out here at 80 cents. I mean, that's like a 240x. So even the miners had this possibility. So for those of you that are thinking that this is not possible, just understand that I've been there. Trust me, it's very easy to underestimate the potential returns on crypto. It's typically more insane than most people realize it is until they're actually in the middle of it. So 15, 50, 24, 32, and 37 on HZen. So, I mean, I don't really need to do the math here. On HZen, it's pretty much basically just about a 10x, but we'll do it anyways. So, yeah, roughly about a 10x. That's about 21,500, somewhere in there. So a lot of these Grayscale trusts did not actually have a full bull run in the previous cycles. So we do see the peaks for the previous numbers, but or the numbers, I should say, for the previous peak, but we never really got like the full sample of our previous bull run on these. So we don't know what's actually possible here. So 49, 78, 109, and 127 respectively here. So 127 divided by 347. I'll just call it 350 is pretty huge. So 36x. And again, that's a relatively small amount of money right there. So 72K. ETCG, I think this is the other one besides LTCN and BCHG that has 100 million market cap, but again, it's actually quite small. So as you guys know, Bitcoin is $1 trillion. So how many times can you put 100 million into $1 trillion? It's really a lot. Okay, so 27, 39, let's see, 52 and 60. So potentially, I don't know, roughly about a 5.5x here. Still not bad. I mean, you would have to buy some super tiny low cap stock on the stock market, which has a risk of going to zero or getting delisted to get that kind of return on a 5.5x on anything stock related. So I would still say, in my opinion, that's pretty good. So now we'll do the measurement for the macro scale. I don't know that that's exact there, but we'll just use it anyways. So you're looking at roughly 155, 247, 341, and 399. So we'll just round it up and say 400 all the way up at the peak. So you're going to get roughly, I think, like a 38x, which in my opinion is still amazing. I mean, I don't know anybody that's going to be upset about a return like that. So 75,000 on ETCG. So if this is the bottom here on the low of this candle, which is possible because after that crazy flash crash we saw, I would not be shocked if the markets just simply kept going up. So you got 47, 66, 83, and roughly about 94. So let's see, 94 divided by 20. We'll just round this up and call it 22. 4.25x, so not bad. I mean, it's not like a 70x or a 1000x or some crazy thing like that, but still not bad. Something that I wanted to point out to you guys about the flash crash, just so you all know. Typically speaking, how that works is you get it usually happens because you got to understand the market makers, they can see the orders on the market. Even if people think they can't, they can. And you also have people that trade in dark pools that are like whales that have huge money that move these markets. And usually when there's too much long exposure to the upside, like there's too many people on the bull side, and they can, like, let's say they have a stop below a certain point, kind of closer towards the top of where the market is at the time, they'll usually get flushed out. So all those stops get hit on the longs, and it kind of cascades and liquidates all the way to the downside. And then when the bears pile in, you know, they get their fun, and eventually they end up getting wrecked to the long side too. So, you know, they'll kind of short at the bottom, so to speak, like the long is longed at the top, put their stop a little bit above wherever they're, you know, basically where they think a safe zone is. And then, you know, market makers and dark pools will come in and whoop, they'll just suck the liquidity right back up to the upside, and everybody on the short side gets stopped out too. So that's usually how you get some kind of melt up or melt down, something like that. So 105, 170, roughly about 230 and 270 on ETH. So 270 divided by 22. Yeah, this is pretty much about the return I would expect the underlying to have. Ethereum is pretty much right about there, maybe a 10 to 15x on Ethereum. So 24,500, that's pretty good. PhilG, I think this one's going to be an absolute whopper. I mean, again, PhilG is a DPIN project. It is, I believe it's also listed as AI. Don't quote me on that, but I think it is. So if I was to go from the previous swing high, let's say to this candle low here, the top target is still actually above the previous all-time highs. So you got 230, 355, 485, and 560. So even this target, measured against the current price, is still a great return. So you get 18.5x, roughly about $37,000 on that one. So on the macro fib retracement here, you guys can see it's much larger. So 625, 1005, 1370, and roughly about $1,600 respectively. So the gains on this thing could be absolutely monstrous. I mean, I would not be shocked if it actually did more than even these fib levels. So 53x here. Again, that would net you over six figures if it did play out like that. And the underlying token Filecoin is like the all-time high is, I think, like, if I'm not mistaken, $240, and the current price is $4. So it's pretty much right in line with what the native token would be, about a 60x. So GBAT, we'll do the measurement on this one. So 31, 48, let's see here, 65 and 75 respectively. So 75 divided by $6, which in my mind is just a steal. I mean, it's so cheap. It's just hard to believe it's actually that low at this point. $25,000. So pretty good return there. And again, that's just the local level. We haven't even done the macro one yet. And I will admit that it's possible that even these macro Fibonacci retracements could get completely blown out of the water. These things could go way higher than this 4.236. Okay. I don't want you guys to think this is the limit. It could absolutely do double, triple, even 5x this. Again, there has been some just eye-popping gains in crypto, both this cycle and last cycle, that would just blow people's socks off. I mean, it's crazy how much some of these things gain. I think there was a story about a dude who bought. Well, there was the Dogecoin millionaire. He put like 50,000 into Dogecoin at cheap prices, made 3 million. But then you had a dude that bought into Pepe, like 20 some dollars worth of Pepe turned into like $1 million or $2 million. Just absolutely insane. So it's possible. It's possible it could go way higher than this. So 50, 76, 105, and 122. And the other thing to keep in mind, the markets have been kind of not entirely getting suppressed, but basically, so 20x, roughly about 40K. So basically the markets have more or less somewhat been getting suppressed over the last 3 years because the Fed has been squeezing the markets basically with higher interest rates. As you guys know, it's more expensive to borrow and do business and stuff like that when that happens. So once the money flows out of the money markets, the $6 trillion wall of cash and cash equivalents, and people can go out and spend money, it's cheaper to live and stuff like that, cheaper to borrow. These cryptocurrencies have been suppressed for so long, they're going to explode. I mean, they're just absolutely going to explode. It's going to be like it's going to be like a god candle going through basically the stratosphere. Like it's going to leave Earth and just go absolutely insane. You won't even be able to see it. It'll be so high. I know it sounds ridiculous. Obviously, that's not going to happen, but I'm just trying to paint a picture for you guys so you can understand what's actually possible here. Like, 50, 60, 80, 100, 200x is probably going to be a lot more common than people think. So 75, 112, 150, and 170 respectively. So this is GLIV. Still pretty good. I mean, you have a 11x, so it's pretty good money, 22,000. Now going into the macros here, so you can see 120, 180, 245, and we'll just call that 285 respectively. And again, the lower the prices on these Grayscale trusts go, the higher the potential upside here. So 19x times 2,000, so 38,000. I mean, it pretty much just comes back to what Warren Buffett said, which is be greedy when others are fearful and fearful when others are greedy. So if you're a person that can sit on the side heavy in cash and just simply wait to buy the dip, I mean, it could pay off significantly. And just understand, if you miss an opportunity, there's always another opportunity around the corner. So 215, 330, 440, and 5, we'll just call that 510 respectively. So roughly about a 10x here. So it's not too bad. 20,000. That's roughly what you'd be looking at there. Now for the macros, I think I've been off a little bit on these measurements, but I mean that's fine. These Fibonacci numbers are just kind of meant to give us an idea of what's possible. It may be possible that it doesn't go as high as the top fib, or it goes higher. We really don't know. We won't know until we know. So 360, 570, roughly about 780 and 910. So you got 910 divided by, let's see, 50 here. Roughly about an 18x. I mean, I would take that any day. We're expecting to make at least a 20 to 25x on Filecoins. So 18x in our mind would still be pretty good. 36,400. GSOL, I could do a local Fibonacci retracement on this one, but it kind of almost doesn't even make sense because it's pretty much already looking like it wants to hit all-time highs. And again, you have the potential of a spot Solana ETF, which, we all know that's going to pump the price of Solana most likely. So 900, 1400, 1880, and roughly about 2200 respectively. I know a lot of people are bullish on Solana, so again, it wouldn't surprise me if this thing hit like 3,000. So 5x, not bad. Once again, I would have been looking to roughly about 10,200. I would have been looking to buy kind of down here towards the lows, but it just simply didn't happen. So, all right, so you got your local level on GXLM. You have 100, which is basically right at the top of that resistance. 145, 195, and 220 respectively. Whoops. So yeah, I don't know why I thought that said 22. So roughly about a 9x. I mean, that's not bad. 17,600. Just so y'all know, we did actually have some Stellar in the previous cycle. That was one of the few altcoins that was actually listed on Coinbase back in the previous cycle was Stellar. They had a few. They had, what was it? I think they had Orchid, they had Ethereum Classic, Litecoin, Bitcoin. They had Stellar. They had, they did have Mana, but it was only on Coinbase Pro. They didn't have it on Coinbase. So, and I can't remember which other ones they had. I think they had Dash and Zcash. Like some of the old tokens, they didn't have a lot back then. They didn't really start adding new ones until the 2021 bull run. So 150, 240, 330, and 380 respectively. On GXLM, again, 380 is going to be roughly, I think, about a 12x, if I'm not mistaken. Whoops. Yeah, could you imagine that? Getting a 9500x? That'd be insane. Okay, so 15x, 34,400. So, I mean, it's possible you could just take that profit, turn around. Of course, just understand when you make money, you do have to pay taxes. So we, of course, always try to set our taxes aside as much as possible ahead of time. So we know that we have tax money to pay taxes when the time is due. But after tax money, you could theoretically just take that 20,000 or whatever it is and put it back into another position to pump for another 30, 40x and turn that into like 6 to 800,000. That is possible. So 53, 81, 110, and 130 respectively on Mana. So 130 divided by, let's see, 10.5 here. So roughly about 12.5x. That's pretty good money. So roughly about 25,000. I do think Mana is going to also outperform as an altcoin. Just so y'all know, I do think it's going to outperform as an altcoin in the next cycle. Or I should say when the alt season happens, I think this is going to be one of the big winners for multiple reasons. So 108, 172, 237, and 275 respectively. So roughly about looks like roughly about a 27x. So 10.4, 26x, pretty close. That's a great return. I mean, I don't know anybody that's going to be upset about that. 53K. Zcash. So Zcash is moving up steadily. I don't know why. There was a comment about why that was. I forget what it was. I'd have to go back and look. But 15, 22, 29, and 33 respectively. 33 divided by 5, 6.6. I know that Zcash is a privacy token. Like the government's like, oh, we can't let you have your privacy, which is ridiculous because the government's there to govern. They're not there to like micromanage. It's kind of stupid. But 13,200. But I think most people that buy Zcash, they're not really buying it for the privacy aspect. That could be possible, but I think most people that buy it just simply buy it because they like the token and they want to make money on it. I don't think it really has anything to do with being anti-censorship or anything like that. Again, I'm not a big fan of censorship, but I just think that the vast majority of people that buy Zcash don't do it for that reason. So 65, 101, 140, and 165 respectively. So this one would be a banger right here. This would be huge. So 33x. And that's if it doesn't go to if the high this cycle doesn't go past the previous cycle high, which I think was like $300 and some or something like that on Zcash. So if something like that happens where it does actually surpass the previous all-time high, then this could be way higher than this top field level here. But 33x, roughly about 66,000 on your money. So anyways, hope you all enjoyed this content. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see y'all later. Peace.